This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media and the Rule Classroom, sponsors of the 2025 Rule Natural Resources Investment Symposium, held July 7 through 11 in Boca Raton, Florida, or via live stream in the comfort and convenience of your own home or office. A few things you need to know about the conference. The first is that over 4 days, we're going to give you more than 50 hours of intensive and valuable programming, more than you can absorb during the 4 days of the conference. To that end, the conference recordings will be available to you whether or not you attend via live stream or whether or not you attend live. Secondly, because we have so much material to present, we are interviewing every exhibitor and every speaker before the conference so that you can familiarize yourself with the conference material and get more of the conference for the time that you attend. Also, to that end, please understand that every public company exhibitor at the conference has been vetted. Unlike any other investment conference in the world, every public company exhibitor at this conference is owned in the accounts of the conference sponsors. No guarantee that because I own a stock, the stock goes up, but there is a guarantee that unlike any other investment conference in the world, we have vetted and understand every public company exhibitor. This allows us to make you an extravagant promise. If you attend the Natural Resources Investment Symposium and don't believe that you got your money's worth, I'll give you your money back. That's right. No other conference in the world has this, but a full money back guarantee. Uh, so let's get on with the process. Today's pre-conference interview involves GoGold. Yes, I am a shareholder, and Brad Langille. Brad, first of all, thank you for decades of toil on behalf of mining investors, and thank you too for your sponsorship and support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium.
Oh, thanks, Rick, and it's a pleasure being here today. And maybe just take a moment to introduce myself and the company. We've had, and I've been at this for 32 years now in the mining business, and the majority of that, and in fact over 28 years, have been here in Mexico. And it's been a great place to work. We built 4 mines here in Mexico over that period of time. Started with a company back in my garage in 1993 in Nova Scotia, Canada, but we quickly moved down here to Mexico. And in that company, we built 2 mines. It was called Gammon Lake. And, we started in the garage and we built it up to a $2 billion company trading in New York and Toronto. That was ultimately, that asset was sold to Carlos Slim for $750 million. And that company went on ultimately with other assets and merged with Alamos Gold. We also in Mexico, we had another project, Mex Gold. And I even believe, Rick, way back in, this was the late 90s and early 2000s, you were involved in that as well as, an investor. I know that you were around the company a bit. But with Mex Gold, we held the El Cubo asset, which we bought for $20 million. We invested $45 million. We, with the Bank of Montreal, came in and financed that shell Mex Gold from the start, and we were able to double the production there. And then 3 years later, we sold the company for $375 million. We also had a smaller project, Nayarit Gold, in Mexico, where we had a discovery. And in 2010, we took that from kind of start to selling it for $80 million to Capital Gold. It's been GoGold now for last 13 years here in Mexico. And in GoGold, we have an operation. In June will be 11 years of continuous operation at our Corral tailings retreatment. But the real driver of the company is our development asset that we're shovel ready right now with a permit, and that's our Los Ricos asset. Along the way, we bought some other things like Santa Gratuitas for $9 million, and then a couple years later, we sold it to Agnico for $95 million. So a lot of experience here in Mexico. We've done a lot in the capital markets. We've raised, I think in my career, raised around $2 billion of equity, and we've done hundreds of millions of dollars of debt deals with private equity, Scotiabank, Bank of Montreal. So I have a great team here in Mexico, lots of strong geos and engineers. And, we're getting it done in Mexico. And that's where I'm actually sitting here today in our office in Mexico.
Well, let's talk something about your current success. And by the way, I go back with you all the way to Gammon Lake. You may not
Yes.
remember that, but
I do very much so. Back in, I think, 1998, 99, I think, first time I met you.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk something about the current assets. It looks to me like, as opposed to having a deposit, you have a string of deposits, maybe even a camp. If you could talk something about your understanding of the deposits that you have in Mexico, and characterize them two different ways. The fact that your tailings deposit currently pays all or most of your G&A, but then in particular, what you suggest would be estimates of the value of measured, indicated, and inferred, and then talk to us about the exploration upside.
Yeah, well, really, the Los Ricos project in Jalisco is a camp. We talk about Los Ricos North and Los Ricos South, and the project, when we entered it in March 2019, we paid $7.5 million for to enter the project, and we did a lot of consolidation in that camp as well, buying other projects, other concessions. Started off with about 26, and we're at 45 now. But we also completed 250,000 meters of drilling. And we had tremendous drill success with the project. We were about 280 million plus silver equivalent ounces in all categories. We started in the southern part of the project first, developed, tightly drilled off a deposit, including an Eagle concession, which we acquired later. And ultimately, we took it through several economic studies, and we've now have a definitive feasibility study in Los Ricos South, showing about close to 100 million ounces of silver equivalent. And a front-end engineering design, meaning that really we're shovel ready to start building. So we're going to get going on some of the things we can do pre-permit. We're waiting for that permit, and we feel we should have it in the next kind of 30, 90 days time frame. But in the meantime, we're starting on things like power lines, water dams, that kind of construction, because we're fortunate that we have 135 million US cash in the bank. And as you mentioned, we have our operation. And Parral is generating $4 to $5 million a quarter of free cash flow US that is paying for G&A and all the work we're doing right now. And also we're about another $3 to $4 million a year of interest on our cash balances as well. So we're very much self-funded. We're adding to our bank account from operations. In the last quarter, we would have added a couple, $2 to $3 million to our bank account. Now, talking about a camp, that's Los Ricos South. We also had a big drill program in Los Ricos North, where we have 161 million ounces of silver equivalent. We have a study in Los Ricos North, although an earlier stage study, it's a PEA, at $18.50 gold and $23 silver, it showed $413 million of NPV. As you can imagine, Los Ricos North now, with current metal prices, would be closer to 845 million of NPV. And if you look at combined Los Ricos North and Los Ricos South, would be over $1 billion of NPV. That's what we have in economic studies today. But we didn't stop drilling because we weren't finding. We got to the point where our retail investors, our institutional investors were saying to us, look, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, you put out a press release with lots of drill results and lots of kilos and kilos and kilos of silver. I mean, it's, I think in 2022 or 23, we had the best intercept in the silver space. We had 53 meters of 2.7 kilos of silver equivalent at our Eagle deposit in Los Ricos South. But our investors were saying to us, now what does this all mean? And that's when we said, okay, we're going to show you the path to production in Los Ricos South, and we're going to show you how we can advance Los Ricos North at the same time, or while we're building Los Ricos South. because ultimately what we want to see happen here, it's a 24-month build in Los Ricos South, about 6 more months to ramp up to that full commercial production. And at the same time we're doing that same build, we're going to be getting a definitive feasibility study done in the north and get it permitted. So it's not just a one build here, it's 2 builds that brings the district to 15 to 17 million silver equivalent ounces per year of production. And beyond that, like I mentioned, we didn't stop drilling because we weren't finding. We stopped drilling because people wanted to know what it all meant as far as economics. While we're building this, we're going to be doing a lot more exploration. And the exploration we're doing right now is really, really interesting because in Los Ricos South, where we have about 100 million ounces of reserves, right beside that, we've just started a drill program looking for a missing 500 meters of vein that was faulted off from one of the richest areas of the deposit. And the operators there 100 years ago, they were looking for it as well, and they didn't find it. And I can tell you that we found it. Now we're waiting to see what kind of grade we can generate in that missing piece of vein. So that's going to be very exciting over the next 30, 60 days. We'll start coming up with some of those results. And you can imagine if you already have your mill, everything all built, and 100 meters away, you have, vein structure that's anywhere from 15 to 30 meters wide. And if that ends up carrying the same kind of grades, that's going to have a major impact on the value of that deposit.
So, Brad, if you combine Los Ricos North and Los Ricos South, in terms of the valuations that have been established to date, third-party valuations, not your own, and you add back $4 or $5 million a quarter in cash flow from the alluvial operation, and then you add back $135 million in cash. The question is, what do you think, or what do third parties think the current net present value of GoGold is, and what's the market capitalization?
Yeah, well, if you look at Los Ricos South, and let's talk about NAV at spot. And there's, if you go back to the studies that are published, you can look at the sensitivity. But in general, Los Ricos South would, at spot, it would be about 600 plus in NAV. If you talk about Los Ricos North, at spot price, we'd be over 800 million. So you're talking in the range of about 1.4 billion US at current pricing, looking at the sensitivity of the commodity price in those studies. Now, if you look at cash flow from Peral, and just we'd be a little conservative here, let's call it 20 million a year of free cash flow from the operation. And we do have over 4 years of reserves left there today. And we're working on some other tails that potentially could come into the operation and give us more tailings to reprocess. So if you look at that operation, we think a fair conservative kind of net present value or NAV on that would be about 100 million. So really the company today at spot would have in around a 1.5 to 1.6 billion US in NAV. Today we're trading at in US dollars right around 500 billion. So, and that's without discovery. I think going forward here, Rick, that discovery and exploration is going to be a big part of what we're going to be doing as we're building this. It's going to be very exciting, breaking ground and building the mine and telling people how we're progressing and having those site tours down to the mine and taking them underground and getting them to, put their hand on the ore zones. But also, I think it would be that much more exciting if we're discovering more ounces right beside the mine we're building. So exploration will play a big, big role here. There's two ways that we can increase value. Our multiple to our net asset value, so the multiple to say that 1.5 billion, or find more and get the benefit of increasing that 1.5 billion of the asset. And as we advance it to production, increasing the NAV on that value. So we want to work on both of those part of the equation, increasing value and multiple.
So, Brad, to the extent that our attendees want to learn more about GoGold in preparation for meeting you at the conference, who in particular do they talk to, and how do they reach that person?
Well, Steve Lowe takes most of the investor calls, and he's on our website, he's on our press releases, but Steve's number is 754-269-8813. He's always available for investor calls, and it's Steve at GoGoldResources.com, but also myself. I'm available as well. I'm down here in Mexico a lot, out in the field, and we're going to be very involved in building a mine here over the next couple of years. But I'm always available to talk to shareholders, either reach through Steve or through email me at brad@gogoldresources.com as well. And I'm looking forward to being at the conference. I'll be at the booth, and always very happy to talk to anybody who is an investor or interested in investing in the company and telling them more about GoGold. Believe me, I could talk all day about it.
Sir, thank you for 3 decades of toil on behalf of mining investors, particularly 3 decades of toil on behalf of me. Thank you, too, for your ongoing support and sponsorship of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. I look forward to hosting you in Boca Raton.
Much appreciated. Thank you.